Go over to 1 Kings 7:51. Now we're going to go back into the story that we've been looking at. This is the third time that we're going to look at this story. We're going to go through it fast because you already have a pretty good understanding. But on the last two meetings that we had, we went through some of this. So we're just going to hit it really quick, okay? 1 Kings 7, you could go 48 and 51, I guess. 7, 48. Solomon made all the things that was needed for the church, and then he came and he put it in the church. Then he took the blessings of his father, verse 51, and he put it all in, all the silver, all the gold, all the things that was needed to run the church, he put inside. Got it? We read that before. Okay? Now look at verse 8 and 6. And the priest brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord into his place. Now I want you to understand this, because I told you we're discussing tonight physical versus spiritual. Now we're talking about a physical place, but it is something spiritual. Remember we talk about where the Bible says, and then the earth opened her mouth. The earth opened her mouth and swallowed on some of these curses, like with Korah and Nadab and Abihu, where the ground opened up. It says the earth opened her mouth. So when God talks about the earth, since he sees the earth as being spiritual, but we with our eyes, we see the earth as being physical. See, you talk about geology and this, and God's talking about spirituality, things like this. For instance, if you go back and you look where they're building the tabernacle of Moses, it'll say about the lampstand, the menorah, the candles. It'll say, and his feet shall be planted on this side of the table of showbread. His feet. Because you look and you go, well, it's just the gold. It's made out of gold. It's made out of metal, and it's just a candle holder. But God is saying his. He talks about the tables, saying their feet, his feet. Everything that is in the tabernacle of Moses, God refers to as being spiritually alive. If you can get a hold of that idea. If you can get a hold of that idea. You see? For instance, we know that Jesus could walk through this wall. And I myself have seen demons walk through walls. And mostly, if you ever see a video where somebody catches a demon in their house, or they're looking at some house that they say is haunted. No such thing as a ghost, but there's demons in there. It's very strange, because you get these pictures where the demons are hiding behind the door, and you'll see their head come out like this. And when they see someone there, they go back like this. Now that's strange, because the demon is operating according to physical principles just the same that we would. And yet I've also seen demons actually come right through the wall. Even the witch of Endor said, I saw God's demons coming up out of the ground. So they're coming out of the earth. They're not digging their way out of the dirt. You see? So it's spiritual. For instance, I could tell you this. Way back in the early 2000s, I wrote and produced an 11-part television series called Devil's Demons Factor Fiction, and I did another one called Wolves at the Gate. Because for many years, when I was working with the police, they used to send me out whenever someone would call and they would say, oh, I think I have a ghost in the house, or oh, there's some demonic thing going on in the house, or you know, people report this stuff all the time. And if they thought maybe it might be serious, or there were kids in the house or something like that, because sometimes people call and say, my kids are being thrown out of their bed at night. Okay, now they're going to take that serious, and then I would get referred those cases. That's what I did. I did that for, I don't know, maybe 7 years. I was going out to all these houses and dealing with satanic ritual abuse, abductions and cases, and that was my area of expertise and what I did. And to get on the point and close this off very quickly, for people who think that they've seen a ghost in their house, for instance, I had hundreds of pictures, photographs of demons in houses, from these houses where I worked in, where you could actually see their faces, you could see their bodies, you could see them standing there. I did maybe I'm getting off track a little too much, but I did a study from back in the 1800s when they used to use glass plate cameras. And back then they used to take a lot of photographs and they would get all these images of what looked like ghosts. For instance, if you ever went on the internet and you looked up a guy's name, his name was William Mumler. He was a known guy. I think there was a lot of occult involved with it, but he wasn't really doing occult. He just had this thing around him. But when he would take photographs, he would get a lot of pictures looked like your dead ancestors, your dead family. One would be in the picture when it would come out. You understand? One worldwide famous photo that really made him famous was after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Mary Todd Lincoln, his wife, came to his studio to get a photograph. And when she took the photograph of his wife, Abraham Lincoln, his image was standing behind her with his arm on her shoulder, like this. It's an actual photo. You could even, if you looked it up on the internet, you'd see that these things are real, what I'm talking about. So when I was involved in all these cases, in all of these houses, I didn't want to go in and spend a lot of time because I was very busy, and so I was thinking, well, there must be a fast way to go in and figure out, because in the old way you had to hang around the house. You'd stay there at night waiting to see if something's going to happen, or you'd try and set up a video camera, and it's very, very timely. And so I came up with this idea, or maybe the Lord gave it to me, I don't know. I mean, it's a little freaky subject anyways. I would never do anything like this now, but it was just what my job was back during those times. And so I thought about a way that you could go into a house or into a place and quickly find out if there was a demon there, if you couldn't see it with your eyes. Because I figured, from understanding back in those times, they used to get all these pictures of what they thought was ghosts. It wasn't ghosts, it's demons. It's demons. And there must be, and then the question is, why don't we get them now on our cameras so much now? It must have been something different about that. So I went and I had a meeting with Kodak Laboratories at the time, and I asked them, how did they do these glass plate camera kind of things? Like, what was the deal on this? And I did a study on the chemicals that they used during that time, because they do the glass plate thing, and then they have to soak it in certain chemicals, then they take it out, and then they have to wash it, and then it's a whole process. And so I learned that, and I made these chemicals, and I tried it, and it didn't work. Didn't work. And I thought, well, and for a while it was just like why, what would be different? What would be different? What would be different? And then it dawned on me about the lighting, the light that they were using, because maybe you've seen it in the movies or something. They come with a glass plate camera and they put the thing over their head, you know, the thing like this, and they hold up the thing and they go poof, and it explodes like this. And so I looked up the compound of what they used in there. They use a small igniter with magnesium powder, and what I figured out was, if you took, like, you know, they use those solid cast iron skillets, you know, for cooking. Those are, you know, we cook them sometimes on Sunday, those really heavy pans, you know, like, because magnesium burns at 2,000 degrees. If you put it in a standard pan, it'll burn through the metal. For instance, you could break out of jail with magnesium, because you can melt steel bars and locks and stuff like that. And then what I found out was, if you would put some magnesium powder in this metal skillet that it can't melt, and then you hit an igniter on it, like a lighter or something like that, it would flare up for, you know, maybe 5, 6, 7 seconds, like that. Burns super high, and it makes this brilliant white blue light, and it lights up the whole entire house. And just as it comes up, if you flash your camera, you'll find the demons real fast. And so I discovered this technique that I could do, and then I could just come in very fast. If they say, well, there's demons in here, I could find out, like, where they are, where they're hiding, like this kind of stuff. They're hiding in the closet, or, you know, the hot water tank thing where they hide a lot of times, or down in the basement or something like that. And I could get in there and figure it out really fast, and then I could go and I could start casting them out in the name of Jesus. See, first, you know, it's always usually tied with the people in the house, so they got to go through the curse breaking renunciation list. Okay, but to get back on point where I started with this whole thing about a demon, if you look and you see something that looks like your Uncle Joe or something like that, you wake up at night and no, there's Uncle Joe, and it looks like Uncle Joe. Well, it's really demonic, because there's no such thing as ghosts. We know in the Bible that there's no such thing as ghosts. But what I did was I took these photographs and I looked at them on photographic enhancing machines. And what a photographic enhancer does is it takes a regular photo and it steps into the pixels. Well, a photograph is made of pixels, dots. And eventually, if you keep going, even the printing in this book would turn into dots. Okay, so it's all made of dots, and photographs are the same way. You don't want to get into the dots, but you want to get past what you think you see. So you don't want to step all the way in, but as you start stepping in, what you see is how demons work, is they work themselves like a jigsaw puzzle. You know what that is? A puzzle? If you have a photo and you look at it and you really look at it, the thing that you're going to notice is that the image of what you think it is made of hundreds and hundreds of individual demon heads. And they all come together. This might be like a strong man with all of his group, you know, something. And they all come together in such a way, like a puzzle, that they can create an image of what you think is a ghost. But if you watch, you have spiritual discernment, because that's one of the gifts that I had. I could see demons and angels my whole life and things like that quite a bit. That if you were to look at an image like that and you see Uncle Joe there or whatever, and you go, in Jesus' name, go! You won't see him turn and walk away. like he would have come in to scare you and freak you out and make you think it's a ghost. Because the whole thing, they're trying to pull you into the occult. See, and but when you go in Jesus' name, go, what you see is they go, the puzzle comes undone. And you see that what you thought you were seeing was a lie. Okay. For whatever that's worth, that's how those things all go together. So that takes you a little bit deeper in understanding, you know, some of the spirit things that go on. And I would never suggest to anyone that you ever go and do what I just said. Because a lot of, you know, these ghost chaser people like that, you're going to get full of demons. If you're not going out there in the name of Jesus to get that house cleansed, and you're just going out there with your little sound thing like on TV they do all these people, they all get possessed by demons. Because you're operating in the occult. You know, I was very careful to stay away from that. I was there to do a job through the government and the police and just trying to get the demons out of the house, not do something for entertainment. Okay, so for whatever that's worth, there's a little thing you can remember. Okay, so, okay, and this is where the point, this is the point was. The point was that all the things that you think are physical in the tabernacle, God would say is spiritual. See, like this podium right here, if this was a table of showbread, he'd go and put his feet right here on the line. He'd be talking about this as being something spiritual because it's going to be done by spiritual things. But you're looking at it and you're going, why are you saying he? It's just a piece of wood. See, through God's eyes. Do you understand?
When I was younger, I worked down at the beach at a A&W root beer when I was in my teens. And one thing that I really remember while I worked there were a lot of the homeless people that would come by sometimes and ask for something to eat, or sometimes they would just come and sit out in front of the restaurant on some of the stone benches that we had out in front of the restaurant for people to sit down and eat at. And it used to amaze me and bother me at the same time with as I would sit there and watch them as they would sit there at these benches and carry on conversations with themselves, full-out conversations, I'd say.
Those years were long before words like delusional or paranoid schizophrenics were being used in the mainstream of society to describe people who saw faces, heard voices and or apparitions which no one else saw or heard. Later in life, of course, these descriptions became common explanations for the ever-increasing events where individuals have walked into a McDonald's or a post office and murdered many people. When they are questioned about why did you do it, how many times have we heard the answers of, a voice told me to do it, or that their evil companion, invisible to us, made them do it?
It has come to a point where you cannot even look at a newspaper without finding at least 2 or 3 heartbreaking stories nowadays where mom was told to throw her children off of a bridge, or dad was told to pour gasoline over his kids and light them on fire by voices. And consequently, anyone who now hears voices or claims they have an evil companion, which only they can see, is diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and prescribed heavy tranquilizing drugs, or is locked up in a prison or mental hospital.
But what about some of the other people throughout history who claim to have heard voices tell them things and yet did not commit crimes or appear to be crazy? Is it possible that man was created as a spirit being and can hear unknown voices in some unnatural dimension called a spirit realm, where good and evil coexist in a parallel supernatural dimension? What about Martin Luther King, or Billy Graham, or Oral Roberts, or Mother Teresa? They claim to hear the voice of God, tell them things, and are certainly well respected, not only in America, but also by a large portion of the world.
Are these people labeled paranoid schizophrenics? No. Why not? Is it because if someone claims that they've heard the voice of God that we can deal with that? Yet words heard from the devil or demons automatically reclassifies the witness into a separate category of being unbelievable and insane? If the idea of God is accepted, then shouldn't the idea of the devil be as accepted as well? Aren't these two ideas based on the countering of each other?
Is it possible that some people really do hear voices and or see apparitions at times? If they do, is it possible that such things could be coming from some other origin than their own mind and imagination?
If we answer no, it's not possible, then we must label as well people like Graham, King, Roberts, Mother Teresa, or even Moses from the Bible as delusional, paranoid schizophrenics. And then we must be thankful that we were lucky enough that these people who claim to hear voices also said that they were good voices. For with the power of influence that they had upon people, there's no telling what would have happened. Also in answering no, we must then build more prisons, more mental hospitals, and manufacture more tranquilizers, because the numbers of these people who claim to be hearing such voices and seeing such apparitions is definitely on the rise.
If, on the other hand, we say we believe that sometimes certain people can and do hear and see things which are separate from their imaginations, then where can we draw the line? Who do we drug and who do we listen to or follow? Who do we really blame when one of these people, after seeking help from the system, mental health facilities, and yes, even churches, fail to get it and ends up doing something horrible?
What do people mean when they say, "I just don't know what possessed him to do that"? And "he couldn't have done that. That's not like him." Or "what could have come over him?" Or "I'm in bad spirits today."
How do we answer these questions? Where and how shall we begin to try to? It all seems to come back to the original questions of, is it real or not? There are plenty of rational, historical questions which have been sought out after while appearing to be just as irrational. Subjects like Darwinism, is the earth round or flat? the Big Bang Theory, and how we contract diseases such as AIDS or cancer.
Yet all of these questions were answered once we were shown proof to support the answer, at which point they all became just another fact of life to us, just like everything else.
What then would happen if someone with several witnesses present managed to tape record voices at different locations which seemingly came out of nowhere and from someone or something which could not be seen?
What also if someone managed to consecutively capture faces and or apparitions with video footage and still camera format, again with witnesses, and again at many different locations?
And one last question. What if these photographic images just happened to have many of the same identifying characteristics, such as theomorphic features and or horns or wing-like projections at the tops of their heads, as what most all of the world's ancient cultures had depicted them to look like, and of which those cultures called demons?
One night I had come to this house to do some filming, and most of the things that had been going on inside of this house had been taking place within the bathroom area, or at least that's where everything would begin to happen when it started to happen. And so I had gone into this bathroom with a small handheld JVC camcorder that I used amongst all the other type of cameras that I used, and all of a sudden this face in this bright, like, greenish blue light showed up inside of the face of a clock. It was a Japanese sushi clock that was sitting up on top of the toilet. And as I looked at this face, which was actually a conglomeration of constantly changing faces. Well, one minute it seemed like it was a skull. Next minute it would change to what looked like a baby. Next minute it turned to look like a almost like the cartoon character of the Hulk, you know, with the big jaws. And well, anyways, it was constantly changing from one thing to the other. So I immediately turned on my camera and was holding it up, and I began photographing this face as it was coming, going, and changing. And as I did so, I began to say and ask the thing, well, what do you want here? What are you doing here? And telling it had no business being in this house and for it to leave. And as I did so, this voice all of a sudden started coming out of this room, which was more out of the room itself than from the clock, from where I was seeing this thing. And you could actually hear this thing like grunting and snarling and laughing, and this face was sitting there mocking me. Well, just as I started to run out of tape on my video camera, I set it down on the sink, which was right behind me, and I turned to head out of the room to go out and grab one of my 35mm cameras, which I had brought along with me also at the time. And just as I did, I heard this like kind of like sound and this rattle, and I turned and I looked back just in time to see my camcorder come up off the sink in midair and boom, got thrown against the bathroom wall, and this is what I ended up with, and sad to say, we never were able to use this thing again.
Myself with this box. We can do it. You must leave. You can do it. You must leave. You must leave. We have no business here. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want here? Go. Go. Go.
In August 1992, we got the first of what was to become hundreds of such photos. We got a photo at a friend's house that was taken at an informal gathering that he was having of two women, one of which was the owner's sister, which showed something that was later to lead into this whole entire project. Now, this house was said by the owners to be haunted. It was said as well to be haunted by previous owners. And the reason for them saying that is that throughout the times that these people had lived there, an odd woman's voice could be heard at night, sometimes crying, going up and down the hallway. And at other times, strange, misty, milky type images could be seen floating at various locations throughout the house. Also, on several occasions, visitors as well as the owners had reported that a hand had actually tapped them on the shoulder. Well, when we got this photo back from the developing people, what we found really shocked us. What we saw was to the right of these two women, in a then turned off TV screen, was an old, haggard woman's face staring back out at us. Now, this all but confirmed to everyone that indeed the house was haunted, and that the house was haunted by an old woman. The crying, now a woman's face. Well, I looked at the photograph, and the more that I began to look at it, the more it began to bother me. As I turned this photo to the left or the right at various angles, I saw what appeared to be hundreds of various different things that almost seemed like small faces themselves. I couldn't quite make it out, but I swore that I was seeing something else. Now, other people looked at this photograph, thought I was nuts. Well, it's kind of a nutty subject to begin with, but as this thing began to bother me, I finally at last took it down to a photo enhancing lab, a professional company that specialized in enhancing photographs. They put different colored filters on their enhancer camera as they looked at the thing, and they magnified this thing at various depths. And we were actually able, in the end, to bring out what I thought I'd seen. Rather than this being an old, poor me type of ghost type of thing, this actual, what appeared to be woman's face, was actually comprised tight, like a jigsaw puzzle, of hundreds of various different little faces. And these faces, rather than looking human as one would assume a ghost would look like, appeared more theomorphic. In other words, they appeared to be half animal, half human. They had the little pointy ears like an animal would have. They had the tight little eyes like maybe a cat or something like that would have. Rather than the standard nose, they had more of a snout, and the mouth was full of sharp, vicious-looking teeth. Well, this brought a whole new outlook on this thing, and I realized at that time that rather than dealing with a ghost in this house, we were dealing with a demonic presence.
Entering the bedroom, certain times, be confronted with cloud, smoky apparitions hovering over the bed, and then sometimes the sheets, the drapes would physically pull themselves into easily discernible shapes, faces, eyes. You be the judge.
What does a person do when faced with a situation like this? When you have to rethink everything about the way you've looked at life? When you've exhausted all means of independent research? When you've been through the yellow pages? You've visited the public libraries, even visited traditional churches with no satisfactory results? I asked James why he voluntarily exposes himself to these dangerous situations, why he's so persistent in trying to photograph and record these events. His answer was a little surprising. When we first met, he told me that he was writing a book, so I expected him to say that this was for research. But actually, he's driven by a much deeper desire, a desire to contribute to humanity, by way of offering proof to unbelievers so that those that are being tormented can be helped. His logic is sound. James believes that if he can prove that demons exist, then by default he proves that God exists. According to James, God was the only line of defense against these forces. Whether they be demonic forces such as the stories that you've seen, or situations where demonic forces are causing family problems or personal addictions. James realizes the monumental challenges in pursuing a goal that has as its objective making the world a better place. But he believes, and I agree with him, that it's worth it. After all, what are we supposed to be here for?
Wolves at the Gate was brought to you by Spirit and Word Christian Center. Video format and taping of Wolves at the Gate, produced by Jeffrey Harris of Different Sides Basic Productions and James Michael Stanton. Original photographs, video inserts, and sound recordings provided by James Michael Stanton, based on his book entitled Shoot the Devil for God.
For questions and comments, you can call us at 714-858-5918 or write us at P.O. Box 6426, Laguna Niguel, California, 92607-6426. Also, you may call us for the times and locations of our demonology lectures, as well as our regular church services. Wolves at the Gate is a 6-part series on demonology from a Christian viewpoint. Be sure to see part 5 of this exciting and factual series same time next week.